I grew up in the natural world. I grew up at the end of a dirt road surrounded by woods. And I moved to the city and I found that there was something really missing for me. So I was practicing parkour, and parkour was really perceived as an urban sport. So training on walls and rails and urban architecture. And I found these trees, and they were really fantastic for parkour. And they invited something out of me, and fluidity and beauty of movement that I hadn't really found anywhere else. And so I trained there all the time. And I was like, where can I find more of these trees? And so I started researching what type of tree it was. It turned out it was actually the third most common tree in my area, but it only creates shapes like this in really special circumstances. But it ignited this curiosity in me. And then I came to a point where I had overtrained myself and I had stressed myself out through traveling the world and teaching. And I had a little bit of a nervous breakdown, and I couldn't train normally. So I couldn't run and jump and climb to the same degree that I normally would. I would get heart palpitations if I got about 6 feet off the ground. And so I had to take time off. And so I decided to just walk through the woods every day. And as I was walking through the woods, I had this realization that I couldn't name most of the plants around me. I didn't know where the animals were moving in and out. And I felt like that I was blind to all these stories that were being told around me. And so I started to think of awareness of the natural world as a kind of literacy. And I thought about how barren my life would be without literature, without books, right? How much I wouldn't know if I couldn't read, right? And then I thought, well, reading a script, it's sort of like exapted from our ability to read tracks that are moving through the forest, right? These symbols that indicate something. And so I started to think of, like I said, that the ability to read the natural world is literacy. And then I started thinking that the stories in the natural world around us are the stories that we were attuned to through almost our entire evolution. And most of us are blind to them. So I feel like the average human being walking through the forest is like an illiterate person walking through the Library of Alexandria. There's a wealth of richness and meaning that is right there at the tips of our fingers, right there, impressing itself upon our retinas. And it's meaningless to us because we don't have the literacy. Like literally, if you look at a tree, right? Like if you walk past a tree, the average person, it's just a wall of green, right? But I walk past a tree and I see maybe ways that I can jump in that tree, right? But like a forager would walk past that tree and know what the value of that wood was and what kind of animals were associated with it, what kind of fruits could be born from it, right? And is the bark good for fiber, and is the cambium something that you can eat? And all of that's literally meaning, right? The world is more meaningful to you. Jordan Peterson has this analogy of compression. So when you take a picture and you upload it online, right? How much can you compress the image and retain the meaning of it? Right? And the more, the smaller and more pixels you have, the more information there is. And the larger the pixels are, the less information is there. Right? Well, you can think about that as how we kind of work with the rest of the world like that. We're looking at something and we sort of just maybe compress it down to just green stuff. Right? That's just a really low resolution version of what nature is. So you look at a tree and you see a green thing. I look at a tree and I see all the ways that I could climb it. Now it's higher resolution, right? And that's literally more meaning, right? So if we're looking for meaning in life, there's no richer source in some sense than the entire living world that is around us. And I think that in many ways, this is where our instinct for spirituality is properly oriented, or at least a major part of it, because yeah, the earth is what gives rise to us, and we are ignorant of it. And that just seems tragic to me. And you can live in a city and still attune to nature. There are trees, there are animals, there are birds, right? If you go outside and you listen to the birds, then they'll start telling you the stories of the city. They'll tell you, which animals live where, and when there's a cat coming by or a fox. They'll tell you what time of the season it is, and many other things. So just because you're in a city doesn't mean that nature is not there for you. It just takes a little bit more looking.